I could have actually pulled a sort of similar product market fit from a bunch of different projects I did. I was one of the first employees at Virgin Mobile, which was the first mobile virtual network operator in the world. And they all sort of follow the same pattern. But this is what I'm going to talk about is moo.com, where I was founding CTO. So I'm sorry for being, you think I'm between you and your lunch, you're all between me and my lunch. So yeah, I kind of covered this bit actually. So this is going back to 2006. This was my camera phone. I think probably my first camera phone. It was a Nokia 6630. It was 1.3 megapixels. Facebook was not yet an open thing to the whole public. Social networks were just taking off. It was very much the beginning of Web 2, which was like mass content creation. Blogging was huge. Blogger.com, all of those ones. But people weren't really uploading loads of content. People weren't taking high-res photos. The biggest photo sharing site in the world at the time was Flickr. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the brief history of the printing industry. This is the Gutenberg press. Print business model has basically been unchanged since 1440 up until around 2006 because to do any printing, you had an expensive process of making plates, and then once you've made your plates, you got economies of scale from using the plates over and over and over again. By 2006, it really looked like this. The plates are on a roller. If you want to do multiple colors, you needed multiple plates for each color, or if you do CMYK, then you needed 4 plates, you need to reload. This is what also everyone in 2006 carried business cards. Not many people do these now, but this is a business card story. This is what business cards look like for everybody. I grabbed this off the net. If you work for a company, you might have one color on here. You might have their logo, but they were the same. And the economics, I think the first time I made business cards for myself, the minimum order was 400 because you had to do this process of making plates and economies of scale. And nobody really needed 400 business cards. Vistaprint, our big rival, had come along, and they were using technology to make this old process of making plates and big cards really, really cheap. So they had a business model that was like, they got making 100 cards, I think, down to $11.99 by using really bad stock. And actually what they had was a pioneering dark pattern that came with a hidden hard-to-cancel subscription to a coupon program. Then this machine changed the world. This is an Indigo 5000. It's a sort of VW bus-sized full-color laser printer that can print as good and as fast, almost as good as lithographic printing in CMY quality on common papers and cardstocks. No plates. You just send these machines PDFs. Printers were buying these machines and not really knowing what to do with them. They basically just used them to do shorter runs of the same kind of printing they did before. But we were like, what if you can use this revolutionary tech to make business cards better and not just cheaper? And what we came up with, our launch product at Moo, was we could work out we could do full-color, double-sided business cards. We started off with ones that were a funny shape. We call them mini cards because we tested ordinary-sized business cards with, we were launching basically at the same time as people were starting to use, they had a blog, they had a side business, they were doing something, and so they had a reason to hand out cards for themselves outside of the business context where they work. So it's all the sort of side jobs and things like that. When we started testing them with standard business cards with younger people, they were like, this is boring, it's a business card, I don't want a business card. And when we made them a small and slightly different shape, they're like, oh, that's cool and funky, great. This exact shape and size that we launched with was also optimized. It maximized the number of orders per sheet, and millimeter change in either direction on the cards would kill 20% of profitability because of the number of cards we were getting up per sheet. So they were a cool shape, and they were maximally efficient for us making money. Business cards for people who don't carry business cards was like kind of our slogan. The other thing we could do, and this is the only patent I have, we printed, because we were printing these PDFs, so we could print different stuff on every sheet. An order was a vertical slice through 100 sheets of card printed on both sides. So we could preserve, whereas in the old world where you collate, then, I'm going into too much detail on this, you can't preserve the order. So people could do colored books, they could do sequences of photos, they could do flip books and things like that. It was really hard to find a printer who understood what we were doing, because what we wanted to do as well, we were just going to send them exactly the same file format, and they had to treat it in exactly the same way for 18 hours a day, but there was only one job, and the fact that there was different, that you kept, but you're printing different stuff on every page. It's going to be, we need to charge you differently. Eventually, we found someone who would do it. This was our first website. These are my hands in the hero shot. I'd been up for about 30 hours working when we had to take this shot. I don't know what was going on with my UX stuff. I do not know why the call to action is so small here. Quality was a really big thing for us. The checkout was, all the other print sites at the time looked really boring. They were just like, that sort of LHP thing of PC load letter. No one was trying to make it fun. We said, we love to print. We like printing so much. We loved business cards. It was great. The quality with checkout was very much a consumer funnel. We restricted what people could do because we didn't want people to make poorly designed cards, because it was absolutely essential to our PMF that the cards they made looked good, because they thought that they were, creating ads for themselves, but really they're in the business of handing out ads for moo.com. So we put Easter eggs in the packaging. We did all kinds of, we couldn't afford to buy market share. We needed our users to sell the difference in our cards and everyone else's to everyone else. We launched with Flickr. Flickr at the time was the world's most successful and pretty much only photo sharing site. We had this great idea. Don't do this if you're the CTO of a manufacturing business, of giving away 10,000 free packs of your products on day one. The promo went, actually, it was on day 0 because a friend of ours whose blogger was embargoed released it before we were ready. We shipped, the 10,000 went straight away. We'd actually shipped to 80 countries in the first 3 months. We thought, we out of the gate, it was amazing. All of this traffic, all of this free newspaper coverage, we absolutely thought we were winning. Even those 10K free packs not all turned into paid orders, but turned into paid orders at a sufficient rate that it totally paid for itself. It was a great promo. It was a huge hit. We loved to print, and Flickr users loved us. Probably the most successful launch I've ever done. So we thought we'd made PMF. We had not made PMF. This is a very typical, I grabbed this off Flickr, typical thing of what a Flickr user would make with their pack of cards, which was some pictures of their kids, some pictures of the photos they had on Flickr. They loved, they used us to express their love of Flickr. They did not give these cards out to anybody else. They would just go, hey, look, I made these cool cards, and then they would sit in a drawer. So we had this great launch. We thought we were doing really well, and then sales just went, ugh. And then we tried doing a bunch of partnerships with other sort of social networks and things. Bebo, Facebook, once they'd become more open. None of those things worked in the same way that this Flickr launch had done. But our second attempt at PMF, which sort of really came to us rather than us, we stumbled upon it. There was one group of users within that Flickr collection who were using our product and did come back and do repeat orders. And they looked like this. I didn't know this audience existed. They were typically Midwestern American crafter, mostly women, people who spin their own yarn, scrapbookers. These are all the people who became like the early Etsy users. I had no idea they existed, but they were the subset of that Flickr audience who kept coming back and buying our product, were using it to show off the things that they were making to their friends and at their craft fairs or whatever. So we started to kind of pivot, and we started catering to these people, mostly actually just by changing the marketing and partnering with this new site called Etsy, which was all about user-created stuff. So we sort of aligned ourselves to them. That sort of then turned into our third version of PMF, where we really started to get going, which was this realization that this audience of creators turned into anyone with a portfolio. So photographers, graphic designers, artists, jewelry makers, models, sometimes glamour models. That was kind of interesting. People who really benefited from the variable print because they had some kind of portfolio they wanted to share. But some of these were more professional. We'd built this consumer product where we were very tightly controlled how things appeared. These people wanted all kinds of nerdy stuff like ICC color profiles and being able to really control what the output looked like because they were trying to color match and stuff that consumers didn't care about at all. And where we kind of ended up after that was from those, which was still, they were all still like individual freelancers, basically, moving into smaller businesses, small collections, small studios, small graphic design studios, who suddenly wanted to have the Moo product, but be able to do it for, the 5-10 people in their studio. This was a shift in terms of like not only the marketing, but also the functionality we had to have on the site, we had to build out SSME support. This was great because these people wanted larger orders, repeat business, long-term relationships, and a broader range of products that we could sell on the back of things. So this actually ended up much more like a sort of traditional business card model. Our original innovation with about the print stuff stayed with it, but the actual audience and stuff sort of became more aligned with the market more widely. What does tight iteration look like? I just want to share. This is one of the things we had with Thing was that because we had really, really, really good feedback loops between the cards that we were making and the products we were doing and who our customers were. Two ways that we did that. The people here on the right are packing and shipping orders. The people here on the left, although they seem to have gone out for a cigarette, these were the programmers. So if there was any problem with an order, any problem with a card, you could just turn around and show it to person and say like, hey, I think we've got a bug. And we just had this incredibly, incredibly tight feedback loop. It's not on in this picture as well. We also, this was a former studio, so that's an infinity wall at the back. We had a projector that it's a different age in terms of privacy. We projected what were the images that were on every order on the back wall in the office all the time. And it gave us this insane feedback loop into like, what are our customers doing? Like, what's the difference between a Bebo user and what they're printing and what a Flickr user is doing? This is how we spotted that there was this audience of Midwestern crafter women who were, really really using the product. So over this time, this kind of iteration, the product was like $20. So if we had any kind of customer service issue, if we had to do a repeat or return, that was zero profit on that order. So we had to grow from like 10 orders a day at the beginning after the initial Flickr rush to 5,000 orders a day while driving the error rate. I think initially we launched with about 3% of orders had some kind of error, and we had to drive that to like a fraction of a percent because that was all our profitability gone if we were dealing with bugs the whole time. So we kept iterating the card design process and the website over and over and over again. We did user tests every 3 months, and we drove conversion through that flow, which at the time, uploading 100 pictures to a website was kind of a complicated process, from 1% to over 5%, and then we were kind of really in business. So, summary before we get to lunch, getting to PMF took us more than 3 years, and it's still an ongoing journey. This is a long time ago. Really tight feedback loops with the product and the users, which Jonathan was talking about yesterday, but also really understanding what they were using the cards for. So really, in our case, really understanding what data they're uploading, what data they're using. I don't think we have good visibility into that. Tens, if not hundreds of iterations on the same tooling. Customer service is marketing. When we delivered good customer service, people would blog about it, people would write about it, people would tweet about it, and it became a real differentiator for us because the main competitor, Vistaprint, was famous for being like as cheap as chips, but really bad customer service. Making the product sell itself, friend get friend. A lot of where we are right now, and this is a bit different for the enterprise sales part, is like we have very high touch. We know everyone who's a customer. We know everyone who's a client. I think we need to here, and we certainly had to here, get to a point where the marketing is being done by the users, and friend get friend and referrals is really important. Oh, and then the last thing, I think, having really good data and then perfecting one audience, going after one market first, getting that one perfect, and then using that as a beachhead to expand into others. That's it. This is Richard, who is the person who invented Moo cards, at the 18th birthday for Moo, which was just last month. We had a really good time. Loads of customers turned up. It was great. Bye. Thanks.